Fear and Hunger is a game developed by Miro Havrinen and published by Happy Paintings. The game was released on December 2018. My first encounter with the game was earlier this year while at work of all places. Some coworkers approached me about this game that they had struggled with. The game was so hard that they got sick of it and stopped playing it. They got maybe an hour into the game before they dropped it. They told me stories of ways that they had been killed, and let me tell you, there's a lot of ways to die in this game. They wanted me to try it, so I agreed, and they set up a laptop in front of me and loaded up the game. They watched me try it, probably waiting to see how long I could make it before I gave up. Now, this game is made in RPG Maker and is one of many RPG Maker games out there. Prior to this, I had never played one of these games or even knew what RPG Maker was. This game became a gateway drug for me, as I ended up playing many other RPG Maker horror games, such as Mad Father, Misao, Ao Oni, Corpse Party, etc. I played the game for like 3 hours that day, and that sounds pretty good, right? I mean, it was definitely longer than the other two had made it. I must have been doing pretty well to have made it that far. Well, yes, but actually no. My first time went something like this. Dude, those dogs are so loud. Oh shit! Dude, what the hell is that? Is that his dick? Yo, is that Smo from Dark Souls? Despite all the deaths, I actually had a great time. One of my coworkers mentioned how surprised they were to see me playing the game as long as I did. I enjoyed my time with the game, so much so that I decided to purchase my own copy when I got home later that night. I was drawn to this world. I wanted to learn more. I wanted to know what the fuck was going on. I wanted to explore the dungeon. The dungeon is the first main area of the game that you'll be exploring. The place is eerie. Its halls are dark and full of horrific creatures. My first time walking these halls was nerve-wracking. I didn't know what I was going to find. All I knew is that I was here to save a guy that had been sent here, and I was afraid. You never know if your next encounter is going to be your last. And that's something I love about this game. This is a strange world, and the stakes are high. This is the Dungeon of Fear and Hunger, and it will make you its bitch if you don't respect it. All who enter are afflicted with unnaturally increased hunger and ever-decreasing sanity. Having to manage this while also trying to survive the many hazards found inside is stressful, to say the least. The anxiety I felt while playing this game is something I haven't felt elsewhere. It's exhilarating. I fuck with this shit. This is my kind of game. The dungeon is full of paths that lead to many unique places, such as the thicket, the mines, and the caverns. And of course, each area is full of unique enemies for you to contend with. If you have any hope of surviving, you're going to need a weapon. Let's talk about the combat. Fear and Hunger uses turn-based combat. I happen to be a big fan of this, so I felt right at home. During a fight, you have the following options to choose from: attack, skills, guard, and items. Attacking is straightforward. You swing your equipped weapon at the enemy. Skills allow you to use abilities that your character has learned throughout their journey. This could be a counter, maybe a leg sweep. What about a spell? Spells can be very useful, but lower your sanity each time they're cast. Each character starts out with a set of skills that are determined by the choices made during the intro sequence. Guarding protects your arms from being chopped off and will allow you to avoid coin flip attacks. You might be asking, what's a coin flip attack? I don't know. Guess you're gonna have to play the game to find out. Items shows you a list of items that you can use during combat. It's pretty easy to understand. Some items, skills, and weapons can actually be used outside of combat, such as a bow, a bear trap, or a spell. The combat in this game is tough. All the enemies hit like a truck. It only takes a couple hits for you to die. Some items can inflict status effects. Do not sleep on this. It can be very powerful. There was an important fight later in the game that I had really struggled with. It's very difficult. Later on, I watched one of my previously mentioned coworkers in this same fight, and they were able to beat them on their first try by using poison. It was too late for me to implement this at this point since I'd already beaten the game, but I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I was miffed. I can't imagine how much easier my run would have been had I taken advantage of the status effects that you can inflict. In combat, you can target enemy extremities, and I say extremities because some of the things you can target aren't exactly limbs per se. But anyways, each extremity has a different hit percentage. A headshot will deal more damage than a body shot, but is going to be much harder to hit. Bladed weapons can chop off enemy extremities. This can make some enemies easier to manage. Now, this doesn't mean you can sit back after chopping off a few extremities, as many can and will still attack even while missing several limbs or extremities. Now, I mentioned status effects before, but they can also be applied to the player character and can carry over into the overworld. Some can be remedied by using the right items, but others are effectively permanent, such as losing a limb. These effects can change the way you choose to tackle the remainder of your run. For example, poison causes you to lose HP, but only during combat, so you might avoid fighting until you can heal that affliction. Losing a limb, and I mean a limb, your bits are safe here, isn't exactly a game over. You can still get by with only an arm or a leg. Hell, you can even get around with no legs. You certainly aren't going to be fast crawling around like that, but it's doable. Losing all your limbs, though, that's going to be a different story. Good luck getting anything done being the dad from the Oblongs. The fact that this can happen and it isn't an instant game over is fucking metal, and I love that shit. Obviously, you can't realistically continue playing like that, but it's awesome it's even in the game. Now, I've said a lot about the combat and what can be done with it, but fighting isn't the only option you have. Running is a perfectly valid option too. You don't have to fight most enemies in this game. There's no XP system here, so it's not like you're going to be leveling up by killing these guys. Sure, you can add a few items, but that's about it. You actually have a lot more to lose by picking a fight with someone. Many times, you're better off avoiding them entirely. There's a few more things I want to talk about before I get into the lore of this game. So let's talk about some stuff I forgot to mention earlier in a section I'm calling miscellaneous shit. There's something interesting about sanity that I neglected to mention earlier. If you let your sanity get too low, it's possible for you to gain one of many phobias. So, for example, you might get a fear of ghosts, meaning whenever you're in a fight with one, your stats are lowered. I thought that was a pretty cool mechanic. I might have said this before, but you're going to die many times. Each death, however, is another opportunity for you to learn. Maybe next time you'll use a different item. Maybe you'll attack the enemy's extremity this time. Maybe you won't drink that suspicious potion. Something I like to do if I had a quote-unquote doomed run was to gather as much information as I could before I would inevitably die. Each time you die, you're sent back to the title screen where you can choose to start a new game or continue from a previous save. This was a screen I became very familiar with. So, how does saving work in this game? Beds. The answer is always beds. You have unlimited saves, but you're only able to save by sleeping in a bed. Each time you sleep, you're presented with a coin flip and have to choose either heads or tails. If you fail the coin flip, your sleep will be interrupted by a nearby enemy and you'll be unable to save. Oftentimes, this leads to a confrontation. You have to pass the coin flip in order to save successfully. You'll be presented with these coin flips whenever you search certain containers, sleep in beds, or by certain enemy attacks. There's recipes you can learn in this game. There are recipes for different foods or other consumables, such as potions. You can actually find a working kitchen in the dungeon that'll allow you to cook your food. If you have the right recipe and the right item, you can even skin your enemies and wear their skin to blend in with them. That's fucking sick. There is an item in the game called a soul stone that can be used on fallen enemies and bosses to fill it with the soul of that enemy. You can take these stones to a special table found somewhere in the dungeon that will allow you to learn new skills. This incentivizes you to fight if you want those sweet upgrades. Maybe you'll get something special if you use one on a boss. I don't know, might be worth a shot. You can find scrolls in the game that allow you to teach skills to anyone in your party. And I didn't touch on this earlier, but you can find companions in the dungeon that will join you on your journey. Now, I'm not gonna explain how it works, but there's a special type of scroll that can also be found in this game. Try talking to a dark priest, and they might tell you more. I can't believe I haven't mentioned this yet, but I love the look of this game. Let's talk about the visuals. Throughout the video, you've seen various locations that you can explore in this game. Each area is distinct. Every location has a personality. No two areas look the same. This game has a medieval setting, and the architecture matches that setting perfectly. This time period is perfect for this type of game and the story it's trying to tell. It wouldn't have the same impact if it took place in, say, modern times. The various characters in this game look incredible. The enemies, the companions, the player character. Everything looks like it belongs here. Everything looks grimy, for the lack of a better term. I don't know. I just love the look of this game. It really speaks to me. That's about all I have to say about the visuals. I just really like it. I think it's time we talk about the lore. This world is home to old gods and new gods. The old gods are deities, but I think they're more like concepts. Grogroth is the god of destruction. Sylvian is the goddess of love. The god of the depths represents those who have been forgotten. Rare is the moon god. Pocket Cat, a character you can meet in the game, is actually a servant of Rare. Pocket Cat is very creepy, man. You can find a children's story about him while rummaging through the bookshelves you can find in the dungeon. Many of these gods have long since left this world, and although gone, there are still some who worship them. You can encounter worshippers of Sylvian in the dungeon. These people express their love for her by showing love to each other in the form of a good old-fashioned orgy. An orgy you can join, by the way. Others choose a more twisted form of worship for Sylvian in the form of a marriage. The marriages in this world are very intimate, so much so that entering into one involves joining your body and soul with another person, and I don't mean metaphorically. The bodies are melded together to form an entirely new being, referred to as a marriage. There's this grotesque creature that you can find in the game, which is likely a marriage form of dozens of people. There's other worshippers you can find, but I'll leave that up to you to search them out. If the old gods are deities who existed long before man came around, then who are the new gods? They're beings who sought to replace the old gods after mankind was abandoned by them. Many new gods, while powerful, don't have their own agency and merely serve the will of the old gods. There are a few, however, who were able to ascend beyond the new gods, so much so that they rivaled even the old gods. These are the gods that were capable of having a lasting impact on humanity and led it towards a new age. Almer was the first. He's Miro's Jesus. I'm not going to get into what makes him so special. Suffice to say, they're important to the world of this game. So there's old gods, and there's new gods, even ascended gods. What does any of this have to do with the Dungeon of Fear and Hunger? Well, the dungeon is home to the city of gods, Mahabre. If one is to become a new god, this is where you can do it. The city was created by the old gods. This is where they used to reside. And this is where many will have their first encounter with a new god in-game. I love this place. There's some timey-wimey stuff going on that allows you to jump back and forth between past and present Mahabre. And the theme you hear while you're in past Mahabre is so good. There's a reason many people choose to play this song when they're talking about this game. It's just that iconic. Past Mahabre is glorious, the streets are bustling, and the city is full of life. In comparison, present Mahabre is bleak. The streets are run down, the city has long been abandoned. You don't hear any music in the present, only creepy ambience. Miro did an incredible job creating the universe in this game. There's so much more I can talk about, but it's going to make this video much longer than I want it to be. The game has multiple endings. During my time with the game, I got endings A, B, C, D, and E. There's character-specific S endings that can only be achieved in hard mode. I didn't get these myself. I would consider ending A to be the main ending of this game, and it was by far my favorite. What happens after you reach the end of the gauntlet is... the implications are huge. It's so good. It took a lot of trial and error to get there, but I was in for the ride. There's a lot I learned about the world throughout my time with the game, reading all the books I found as well as talking to different enemies. I made a lot of mistakes, but always came back for more. I was engrossed in the world, and I was going to see it through to the end. I read so many theories online and watched so many videos from great content creators about this game. I suggest checking out Worm Girl if you want a great summary of the events of this game, Mouthdoog and Frappalo94 if you want even more content delving into the game, the lore, and its world. They all have great videos covering this game and its sequel. I'll have links to their channels in the description. This is one of those games where I wish I could go back and experience it all for the first time again. I could not put this game down. It basically took over my life for the better part of a month. Now, you can imagine how excited I was when I learned there was a sequel and it was already out. I couldn't wait to play.